What if our understanding of evolution, the one we all learned, goes far beyond just physical complexity? What if it actually touches the essence of our souls, our relationships, even where our planet is headed?
That's a huge question to start with.
It is. And today, we're diving deep into the seat of the soul, a source that offers some really transformative insights on exactly that. Our mission today is to unpack some core ideas like being five-sensory versus multi-sensory, what authentic power really means, karma, and the soul's journey itself.
It promises to shift some perspectives for sure.
Definitely. So let's get into it. We usually think of evolution, like from science class, right, as this progression of physical forms. Single cells to us, more complexity, better survival.
Yeah, the standard model.
Yeah.
Fish evolve, apes evolve, humans evolve,
Yeah.
increasing physical organization.
Exactly. But what if that's, well, incomplete, maybe just one part of a much bigger picture? The source really challenges that purely physical view. It points out something we kind of intuitively know already.
Like what?
Like when someone does something incredibly selfless, like sacrificing their life to save someone else, we instantly recognize that as highly evolved, don't we? Even if science doesn't quite measure it that way.
Right. It feels like an evolution of something deeper. Consciousness, perhaps.
Precisely. And that's where the source brings in these interesting terms, five-sensory and multisensory. They describe different phases or ways of experiencing being human. It shifts evolution from just bodies to consciousness.
Okay, so tell us about the five-sensory human first. What does that entail?
Well, the five-sensory human, according to the source, perceives reality only through the five physical senses. See, hear, touch, taste, smell. That's it.
And that limited perception shapes their whole view of evolution.
Exactly. It leads to that survival of the fittest idea. Life becomes about competition, accumulating external power, control, possessions, status. It's a worldview really rooted in fear, in limitation.
Fear of not having enough, fear of losing control, leading to conflict and separation. Makes sense.
So if that's the five-sensory path, often driven by fear, what about the multisensory human? How is their experience different? What does that unlock?
Well, the multisensory human perceives beyond just the physical. They tap into a larger system, something more dynamic and interconnected.
Okay.
And this wider perception allows them to understand deeper values. Things like authentic power, which is different from external force, unconditional love, real wisdom.
So it's not about one being better than the other.
No, the source is clear on that. It's not better. It's just more appropriate now for where humanity is heading in its conscious evolution. Think of it like shifting from using candles to using electricity.
Ah, okay. Candles weren't bad. They just
became less appropriate once something more advanced, more efficient came along. Multisensory awareness offers vastly more opportunities for growth. It fosters connection, helps us navigate life with less struggle because we're working with the universe, not against it.
That candles to electricity analogy really does bring it home. It's about evolving capability, not judgment. So with this broader view of evolution, the source then tackles karma. And this is where it gets really interesting for me.
Yeah, karma's often misunderstood, isn't it? Cosmic payback or something.
Right. But the source reframes it completely. It says the universe doesn't judge. Karma isn't moral judgment. It's described as an impersonal energy dynamic.
Impersonal, like a law of physics.
Exactly like that. It's reflected perfectly in Newton's third law. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
Okay.
And the personalized version of that universal law is simply, you receive from the world what you give to the world. Karma is just the universe balancing energy. And crucially, this balancing often happens across multiple lifetimes.
Wow. So even really painful things like a child dying young, the source suggests that could be part of a soul's balancing act or healing, maybe even based on agreements made before birth.
That's the implication. It's not punishment. It's about completing energy cycles, returning to wholeness. It's a challenging idea for sure.
It definitely is. And it raises a big question. If karma is impersonal, this vast energy balancing act, how do we think about justice? How do we act justly without falling into judgment?
Good question. What does the source say about that?
It points to figures like Gandhi or Christ. They embodied what it calls non-judgmental acceptance. They famously didn't prosecute attackers or even ask for forgiveness for those hurting them.
Which seems counterintuitive to our usual ideas of justice.
Right. But the source suggests this isn't weakness. It's understanding that true justice isn't about retribution, which is often driven by ego, wanting to feel superior. It's about seeing the deeper, impersonal process of energy balancing. Judging others, it says, actually creates negative karma for us because we're asserting a separation that isn't real.
So we're tying ourselves into that imbalance when we judge. Okay, so if we need to move beyond judgment, how do we actively cultivate that non-judgment, that deep acceptance in our lives?
The source offers a key concept here, reverence. And it's careful to distinguish reverence from respect.
Reverence. Okay, how is it different from respect?
Respect is usually earned, right? It's a judgment based on qualities you admire in someone, their intelligence, their actions. You can give it or withhold it. It's conditional.
Yeah, I respect someone because they did X or Y.
Exactly. But reverence. Reverence is defined as the experience of accepting that all life is, in and of itself, of value. It's an innate knowing, an unconditional honoring of the inherent worth of all life. No comparisons, no hierarchies, seeing the divine spark everywhere.
Unconditional value in everything. Wow.
And when you look at how humanity often operates, well, the lack of reverence becomes pretty clear, doesn't it?
Yeah, I could see that.
Cursing competitors, trying to disempower others, polluting the earth. The source says bluntly, our species has become arrogant, believing the planet is just ours to exploit. That's a very five-sensory, dominance-based view.
So embracing reverence changes how you interact with everything.
Fundamentally. It means approaching life as a spiritual person, even in tough arenas like business or politics. A reverent leader wouldn't just focus on profit or control. They'd bring the concerns of the heart, serving others, valuing the well-being of the whole system. Every interaction becomes a chance to affirm that inherent value of life.
It really brings it back to our inner state, doesn't it? How we relate to the world starts inside, and the source then really zooms in on the power of our intentions and emotions.
Which is huge.
Absolutely. It says the whole complex human emotional spectrum basically boils down to two core elements: love and fear.
Love and fear, the fundamentals.
Right. And thoughts rooted in fear, like vengeance, greed, violence, they generate low-frequency emotions: anger, hatred, jealousy. And get this, these emotions, the source says, literally lower the frequency of your light.
Lower your light. What does that mean practically?
It means they drain your energy. You feel depleted, exhausted, heavier, denser. It's an energetic reality.
And conversely,
Yeah.
what about thoughts rooted in love?
Well, creative, loving, caring thoughts. They invoke high-frequency emotions, appreciation, forgiveness, joy. And these, they raise the frequency of your system.
So it directly impacts your well-being, physically and emotionally.
Yes, literally. The source explains that light isn't just a metaphor. It represents your consciousness, your vital life force. Some might call it soul energy. High frequency is vibrant, expansive. Low frequency is dim, constricted.
So by choosing our thoughts, by deciding which emotional currents to feed, we're actively shaping the quality of our own energy, our own light.
Exactly. We determine the quality of our life experiences through the frequency we choose to broadcast, moment by moment. It's like tuning a radio. Your thoughts tune your consciousness.
That's a powerful realization. It puts responsibility squarely back on us.
It does. And it makes you think about relationships differently too, doesn't it? From our partners to how nations interact.
How does the source connect this to relationships?
It contrasts the traditional marriage archetype, which it suggests can sometimes trap people in unequal roles based on collective ideas, like the old husband as master, wife as hostess's model.
Right, based on societal constructs, maybe reflecting collective fear or doubt.
Yeah. And it contrasts that with what it calls spiritual partnerships. These are founded on genuine equality, mutual spiritual growth. The focus is on the souls growing together.
And the partnership lasts as long as it serves that growth, not just because of external vows.
Exactly. It's about serving the soul's journey first and foremost.
That leads into how we handle inner struggles, too. What about something like addiction? It feels so powerful, so consuming. How does this framework understand that?
It offers a really unique perspective. The force suggests addiction isn't just a physical craving. It stems from a deeper, often unconscious desire to prey upon a weaker soul.
Prey upon because of inner powerlessness.
Yes, exactly. A profound feeling of inadequacy or powerlessness within oneself. So healing isn't just about stopping the substance or behavior. It requires facing that underlying dynamic.
And how does that facing happen? Does the universe help?
The source says the compassionate universe often helps by allowing the cost of keeping it, the addiction, to become really high. Maybe you risk your marriage, your job, your health. These crises push the soul to finally confront its own perceived inadequacies and reclaim its true power.
The greater the desire to heal, the bigger the nudge from the universe.
That seems to be the idea. So authentic empowerment isn't about grabbing power outside ourselves.
No, it's internal.
It's achieved by consciously aligning our personality, our ego self, with our soul, cultivating things like humility, forgiveness, clarity, love. This is called the vertical path of conscious choice.
Moving away from seeking external power, which the Source says now leads nowhere. That old model is breaking down.
We're shifting how we learn from reacting to external events out of fear to choosing actions aligned with our soul's wisdom, choosing inner authority.
And connecting this back to the physical body, the Source draws a fascinating link between emotions and physical health, or rather dis-ease.
Oh, right, the energy centers. Tell us about that.
It explains certain physical issues as power loss related to specific fears. Like anxiety attacks might be seen as power leaving through the stomach energy center linked to fears about self-protection or vulnerability.
And heart attacks.
Power leaving through the heart center, possibly due to fear of losing love or not being loved. The core idea is that many illnesses can be seen as results of giving our power away to external circumstances because of fear and distrust impacting these energy centers.
Stomach, heart. Are there others?
Yes, the Source likely details others, but the principle is the same. Fear leads to power loss, which manifests physically. And the key takeaway is that healing requires facing our feelings, not suppressing them. As the Source says, the road to authentic power is always through what you feel.
Consciously engaging with our emotions, not running from them. Okay, so wrapping this all together, what's the big takeaway for us in our day-to-day lives?
The Source reiterates something both comforting and challenging. Every single experience, pain, disappointment, even temptation, is a doorway to awareness.
A doorway, not a punishment or a mistake.
Exactly, and temptation specifically. It's described as a kind of compassionate dry run for potential negative karma, like a practice field.
A dry run? How so?
It lets us become aware of a negative pattern or impulse within ourselves and consciously choose not to act on it, thereby cleansing it without actually harming anyone or creating the heavier karma in the physical world. It's learning through conscious choice, catching it before it manifests.
So the universe is constantly supporting us, guiding us, even if we don't always see it.
Always. The Source speaks of non-physical teachers and guides being constantly present, offering wisdom. This whole journey is about moving from that reactive five-sensory perception based on fear
to a proactive, multisensory perception.
Exactly, where we learn through responsible, conscious choice, guided by our inner truth and maybe even that divine assistance. It's our collective conscious evolution, from fear and doubt to love and wisdom.
And the Source encourages us to lean into that, to embrace depending on divine intelligence.
Yes, seeing things like prayer and conscious intention, not as begging some distant deity, but as powerful ways to invoke guidance that's already available, already pouring towards us.
So we're not creating our lives alone in a vacuum.
Not at all. We're in partnership with the universe, co-creating our reality, always moving towards our highest healing and fulfillment, even when it doesn't look like it.
Yeah.
It's about releasing that need to control everything and trusting the process, trusting that all paths ultimately lead back to wholeness, to authentic power.
That's a profound place to land. As we finish up this deep dive, here's something really provocative from the Source to maybe sit with. It urges us to shift our perspective from seeing ourselves as a soul and a body to seeing ourselves as a body and a soul. Think about that. What would it really mean for you listening right now to truly embody that idea day to day? To feel your physical self as just the vehicle, the instrument, held within the vast, wise, eternal energy of your soul.
That flips the usual perspective entirely.
It really does. So maybe take a moment now or later today. What's one small conscious choice you can make to align your personality more closely with your soul? Maybe it's choosing humility when pride wants to jump in, or choosing integrity when the easy way out looks tempting.
Or forgiveness instead of resentment.
Yes. How can you pause and feel your intentions in your heart before you react? Choosing love, choosing clarity, choosing compassion, instead of just defaulting to fear or anger.
And consider how that one small soul-aligned choice might ripple outwards.
Exactly. Touching your relationships, your work. Maybe even contributing, in its own small way, to the evolution of all of us. Just remember, this journey to authentic empowerment isn't about suddenly becoming perfect. It's about the continuous, sometimes messy, but always courageous choice to learn through wisdom one moment, one decision at a time,